Hello everyone and welcome to Lee's R&D session number 7, the basic sculpting system. Now it's over the next, 15, 20 plus videos that we're going to be putting together a simple sculpting system inside of Unity to use with the custom terrain that Lee's been working on for some time now. Lee, do you want to talk a little bit about this sculpting system?
Well, like you were saying, it's fairly simple, but it's not completely featureless. I tried to set it up. This isn't going to by any means be the final system that ends up in whatever we do with it, but I wanted to make a system that was fairly extensible that allowed us at any point go, it'd be kind of cool if we had this tool, or what if we had a brush that did this, that we had a system that we could add to it. But the system, as we're going to be demonstrating in this set of videos, does have several different tools. A tool, as defined here, is a sculpting tool, meaning it has an effect on the terrain itself. If it raises the terrain, lowers the terrain, smooths it out, or levels it off. So right now, there are 4 tools in the system. Now, a brush works with a tool to define how the tool chooses which vertices to modify when it's doing its operation. So if we decide to do a raise operation, we've got several tools or brushes that will select which vertices are going to be pulled up by that tool. Now, some of the brushes that I've implemented are procedural and some of them are stencil based. The difference between them is a procedural uses some sort of algorithm to determine, based on the size of the brush and the distance from the center of that brush, how much effect is going of the tool is going to be applied to the vertices within that range. The procedural brushes that I have are going to be on a hard edge brush. I also have a soft edge brush and a noise brush. What that basically means is a hard edge brush has a radius to it, and inside of that radius, full effect of the tool is going to be applied. Outside of that, no effect is going to be applied. A soft edge brush has a fall off from the center to the outside edge with an ever decreasing amount of the tool's effect being applied. There's a noise procedural which uses our noise class to generate some sort of random noise which can then be used to determine where the effect of the tool will or will not be applied. And then we get into stencil brushes. Stencil brushes are going to use alpha maps, or just basically a texture, and it's going to look at that texture's information in the red channel and apply where that value is something other than 0, a ratio of the tool. So if the red channel is pure red or it has a value of 1, the full effect of the tool is going to be enforced, and if it's 0, none of the effect of the tool will be applied in those areas. This gives full control to an artist who wants to add their own custom brushes. They'll be able at some point to define their own brushes, and then we'll make a mechanism so those can be added into the system. So right now, as set up, I think we're going to have 18 or 19 different stencil brushes that I borrowed from the ZBrush forums. So they're freely available. You can go there and get them yourself and put them into your system, or you can create your own alpha brushes. Cool. So if you want to demonstrate some of this stuff.
Sure, which real quick, I'll just jump in and let people know that this is, I think, the first time that we've actually done this in any of the R&D sessions, and that is to take a version that you've worked, into the future, if you will, and complete it, and then back up and demonstrate it here at the very beginning, just to give people an idea of what it is we are shooting for. Now, that doesn't mean that by the time we get done with session 7, what we're going to have will be the exact same thing that you see here, because it always ends up, as we travel into a session deeper and deeper, Lee does things on the fly, and this changes, that gets enhanced. Oop, found a bug there. Let's fix that. And
Yep.
things just get better and better. And there are some things we've already discussed adding at the end of this session that are currently not available in the little demo that you're about to see now. We've talked about the possibility of go ahead and putting a very basic UI in place just to allow some brush selection and possibly the ability to control opacity for the strength of our of the tool that we're using, as well as possibly a Maya-like camera system to allow us to navigate around the scene without having to be stuck to this third-person character that we have currently in the scene. But I just wanted to throw that out real quick. Now, Lee,
Yeah.
I've not played really that much with your system, so I know if I hit T, that is going to activate my tool to
Your
begin
tool.
with.
Yep. That brings up your sculpt tool. Now, one of the things that I'm sure Jason will do by accident, and it happens, and I don't have any code to
Woo!
prevent it, is you're going to paint underneath you by accident, and the character is going to start falling through the ground.
In
Yes,
which
we know
case,
that's
grab the character, pick the character back up, and
Yep,
let him
put
fall.
them back in. Right. Don't stop and then hit play again because it'll take a while to build up the terrain.
Yeah, because I believe right now the actual collision, the mesh colliders get rebuilt after I complete the tool operation, correct?
In this one, they're getting built. I can't remember if I'm building them on the fly. And in this example, I think they are still being built on the fly.
Okay.
But the thing is there's no code in the character
Mm-hmm.
to continuously check to see where the ground is. So with Unity's collider system, the moment that it's been interpenetrated, it's just firing off an event.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment you've collided, it doesn't go ahead and reassign it. It will prevent you from interpenetrating if it's possible, but once that interpenetration happens, it can't fix itself.
Right.
So if you were to raise the terrain underneath of it, it's not going to know it, and it's going to just let the character fall through. So you'll actually have to pick the character up again, drop it somewhere above the terrain, and as the character falls, it will intersect the terrain and stop. But if you paint underneath it, it's kind of the same problem that if you've ever tried to implement a lift inside of Unity, and what you'll find is anything that moves up with a character controller or a character collider on it, the character collider will still fall through it the moment the lift moves. You have to put code in to handle that particular case. And I've not gotten to the point. As Jason said, the way that we do these R&Ds are very nonlinear. We have one set of videos that you guys are seeing as we do these sets of videos for you. But on the side, I'll have 3 or 4 branches of R&D going on at the same time in different areas. And the sculpting tool is something that I finished, a few weeks back, and we're just now getting around to coding it. And in the meantime, I've got tests that have trees. I've got tests that have the entire planet surface being drawn. And I've got tests for dealing with large storage of information, which is stuff that we're going to have to do because this particular R&D that we're going to be working on, the sculpting system, is non-persistent. So you'll find that if you start messing with these sculpting tools, you sculpt your terrain, you go, all right, this looks great, and you run off in some direction, and you come back. If you've run far enough where these patches have unloaded, and you run back, you're going to find that they've been set back to they were before you even sculpted. Likewise, there's no way of saving out anything that you've done yet. That's all got to be done later on after I get some sort of data storage system in place and a way of handling making our sculpting persistent.
Correct.
So we will not be covering that here. What we will do is what we're going to demonstrate now, which is the ability to toggle us into a painting mode. We're going to be able to select our different types of tools. So T toggles your tool on and off. If you're in your tool, you can hit escape. That will knock you out of your tool. The number 1 gives you your soft select procedural brush, which is what you see now. Number 2 gives us our hard edge procedural brush. Number 3 gives us our procedural noise brush. And then number 4 gives us our stencil brush. So I've also set it up so if you hit plus and minus, it will cycle through the various stencils. Now, this is not a perfect system because the stencils have alpha on them for display because of the way that we're projecting these onto the surface. So not all stencils show up very well. That's just kind of a limitation of the system at the moment, which is why in the future we want to look at making some sort of GUI interface that shows you which stencil you've got selected, and then possibly a different way of displaying that projected onto the ground. As Jason had mentioned, we're looking at doing opacity. The system that we're going to be implementing has opacity for our brushes and strengths for the tool, but as of right now, they're coded into the code we're going to be writing, or they're part of the classes, but we have no mechanism for adjusting those in real time yet, which is one of the things that we'll probably do if we do the little GUI tool for you guys, is put a couple of sliders that will give you a strength that you can adjust your tool affect, or how strongly the tool is going to affect the terrain, and then there's an opacity which controls how much of your brush is being applied to that tool. So the other thing that we have, as Jason's demonstrating, is the ability to resize the brush. Those are the same as the Photoshop keys for doing the same thing, which are the left and right square brackets. So if you can hold those down, they will cycle. Now, that covers basically what we can do with the brush, how we select brushes, how we get into the tools. And we also have different tools. The default tool that if you are inside and you hold left is going to be your raising sculpt tool.
And that's the left mouse button.
The left mouse button with no modifiers. That will raise your terrain. Now, if you want a lower terrain, if you hold the control key, that will inverse the effect, which will lower your terrain. So in combination with that, you don't always want to just raise or lower, because sometimes if you raise too much, you start exaggerating out or causing your terrain to stretch too much. So we have a smoothing tool. The smoothing tool is accessed by holding the shift down, and that will smooth out all the vertices within a range. Incidentally, the smoothing tool was the hardest to implement, specifically when we had the old patch system that had the extra vertices on every other row that was modified and pushed in, so our patches had straight edges along all 4 sides. So by removing that, we were able to greatly simplify the smoothing tool. And all the tools work real time and are fairly smooth, as Jason's demonstrating. So it's just not his super fast machine, but even on my slow machine, it runs.
I'm just smoothing the mountains out while you're talking.
Now, there's another one, which is kind of one of my favorites, which is the leveling tool. Now, the leveling tool takes the height at which you start the effect at, and then assigns everything to be leveled to that level. And it works in conjunction with whatever brush you've got. So if you've got a soft edge brush like Jason has, or a hard edge brush, those will affect the fall off at the edge of the leveling tool. The leveling tool is accessed by holding the control and shift down and then painting. So that will level everything out. And with the way Jason's doing it, where he's got the hard edge brush, you get a very sharp definition. Whereas
I'm demonstrating both, yeah.
Yeah, and if you use the soft edge, you get a smoother transition. And then you can come back with the smoothing brush and smooth out the edges as well, which is also a good technique.
Trying to be careful not to go send myself flying. There we go.
And at some point, yeah, I want to do a ramp tool. I've already figured out a couple of ways that I can approach it.
But there you go, very nice. And up here, maybe a little Think.
What's kind of fun is if you pan back out and go to as high up as you can go, looking straight down.
I'm trying.
Yeah, this is not the best or camera system for this type of effect. Now, if you go to a hard edge brush,
Okay.
and then start at a low area and just cut a channel through the terrain.
Start at a low area and just.
Yeah, like cut a riverbed through the mountain.
Do. Okay.
And then you just go run through it. Oh, did you do the leveling tool on that?
No, I cut.
Oh, I was gonna say no. Use the leveling tool so
No,
you keep it
I
on the
cut
straight
like.
level.
You kidding? I cut like a madman. Yeah, we can do this right here.
Yeah.
I thought you wanted it to look a little more. What's the
Oh
word?
no, I was gonna use
Natural.
I was gonna use the noise brush after that.
Oh, okay.
So you level it all out, and then you come back with the noise brush or one of the stencils to add your noise back in.
It's there. It's just hard to see with lighting and all. Hang on.
That's something else that is not being applied here, is because until I can get the vertex cache in place, we're not going to be recalculating the tangents and the normals correctly. So if you look, you see all the black stuff on the edge, which is the normal calculations from before Jason had his fun with modifying everything. So it's still thinking that the normals are one way while you've actually sculpted it a different way. That's just a limitation of
my little
where
bitty.
I am with the R&D.
Let me get down there. Almost there. Almost there. Hooray! All right, let's see. What do we make? Wow, the Grand Canyon. Woo! And there we are. And I did noise it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Didn't smooth it much, but
Yeah.
it's still fun to play with, though. So, yeah, we've got a bit of work in front of us to get this into place. Again, it's the start of the system. It's getting some of the main aspects of it in place. So we have tools and brushes, and we can manipulate geometry, a lot of good stuff to learn. And then we'll just be revisiting this as we go further and further into the future with a more robust UI, and then finally getting things to where that they are, everything's being saved out so that our changes are indeed persistent. And then finally, we are working in a cooperative manner. So is there anything else, Lee, that you want to?
Just to mention that just like everything else that's in the R&D, this isn't really the stuff that is the code for the MMO. This is all proof of concept, whether or not we could even do this.
That's right.
For the most part. So we've proven that, yes, we can do it. Now we're going to show you how we did it so you can do it too.
Yeah, so far we're on track, and we like the way that the R&D has been going as far as what we're going to be able to fall back on, optimize, and utilize in the actual MMO. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring this video to a close and jump into actually creating it. Thanks a lot, everyone.